All right, guys, welcome back to the show. It's been a phenomenal couple of weeks, the amount of recognition happening across the board. So huge congratulations. Chris Parslow and Britley Parslow go SMD. Blaine Stadoka goes SMD. And then ZDB crossed 100K as well in the last little while.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of good things happening.
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. And, obviously it's the time of year where events are starting to wrap up. We just came off Summit and Vegas is coming up, fast approaching. And we're looking forward to launching our showcase event, which is going to be in the fall. So expect that registration to come through probably mid-May is what I'd expect. And so on that topic, we're going to talk about events today. It's something that we've really believed in, and we've driven, and we've been a part of a lot of them. And there's been times where we've wondered why, and then there's other times where we've understood it. But we just want to lay it all on the line today of why events are what they are, both big and small. And maybe give you guys some strategies on, first off, understanding why we're running the events, but then secondly, how to drive events and how to promote events and that kind of stuff. So, Jared, if you want to maybe start off with your experience on events as a whole.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with, I shouldn't say we, I'll just speak for myself. I'm very simple-minded as far as if I'm looking at Cameron or Corey or other leaders in the company that I want to aspire to become like one day. And they told me early on that you can never miss an event. And I took that as gospel. I didn't really ask a whole lot of questions there. I just said, all right, if they're making seven figures and they got a big business and they got a great family life and they said to never miss an event, then I'm never going to miss an event. I think we can say, have we ever missed an event in our entire career?
No, I just about missed a BPM because I had food poisoning.
Right.
And I still went. That
Yeah.
was
I
the
think
closest I've ever
I
had.
do remember that.
Yeah,
You texted me and you were like, I'm not going to miss this streak.
And I still, I think I presented the BPM
Yeah.
that night too. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have never missed an event. We've never missed, training, a medium-sized event, certainly a bigger event. In fact, we've forced ourselves to attend some events that we probably shouldn't have even attended. We remember when the Alaskan Cruise contest was launched and the qualifications were like completely out of our realm to go and qualify. And we looked at each other and said, hey, worst case, we don't make this. We are paying our way to get on that boat.
Yeah.
When it came to a Rich Thali event, when we were brand new SMDs, and we were kind of on the bubble if Core was going to pick us to attend that event. And keep in mind, all of these Thali events are at our own expense. Like, we didn't get flight credits, we didn't get hotel credits. We had to pay our way to get there. And when we heard that Corey and Cam got a chance to take a few agents to Thali's house, we had a meeting with Corey because we had heard that we were on the bubble, he might not take us, and we literally sold ourselves as to why he should take us to that Thali retreat. And it was a few $1,000s. It wasn't cheap, but we were sold early on the importance of events and why we have to attend. And we never ask questions. And it's been, if we can kind of write a list of top 3 or 5 things that got us to where we are today, I would say events would be at the very, very top. They've been that instrumental to our mindset, to our identity, to our belief that we can go and succeed here at high levels. There's extreme power with events, with consistency, and we can't gamble on them because you don't know which event is going to be the one that kind of has that light bulb go off in your head. And Thali was a big one for you guys with Carly coming full time. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, and I use the example of investing in the market. It's a great one. There's data that shows, and I'll use the example here. I can't remember the exact timeline on this, but here it is, 1995 to 2014, and it shows statistically if you invested in the S&P 500 and you kept your investment in the entire time, and you never pulled it out a single day, your investment would have grown 9.85% rate of return over that timeline, and your money grew a whole bunch. If you just missed the 10 best days in the market, so out of that entire stretch, that's a couple decades, if you just missed 10 days, your rate of return went from 9.85% down to 6% rate of return. So just because you missed a couple days in the market, you cut down your rate of return. If you missed the best 40 days, you're now at a 0.45% rate of return. And if you miss the best 50 days, you're actually in the negative now from a rate of return perspective. And that's the way we've kind of always viewed events. We've kind of always been fearful, right? That, what if I miss that one day in the market in our world? What if I missed that one event and that was the best event that cut down my rate of return? And we just got told, if you want to be successful, you show up to every event, you basically do it for a 5-year period and you'll be financially independent. And we just bought into that. And I bring it back to when we played sports. There was lots of events we didn't want to go to. I remember we did 5 a.m. yoga on the gym floor with no mats, and they called it optional, which means mandatory optional. I remember one time in my career, I took it as optional and we didn't show up. And our coach reamed us out. He said, that's not the way this works. Like, you show up to every event, good, bad, indifferent. And we brought that here, that we show up to the meetings we want to go to. We show up to the meetings we don't want to go to. And you'd probably agree, it's some of the meetings we don't want to go to that are the most impactful.
Yeah.
When you can't afford it, when you can't make it. And I look at my career, we've been to thousands of events. Every day there's an event of some kind. And I could boil it down to about 10 events. I could say these are the 10 events that created the person that we are in business. But the crazy thing is that I would have never guessed those were the 10 events.
Yeah.
Like, there's a random Wednesday morning training mixed in there.
Yeah. Holbrook.
Right? Steve Holbrook. I remember one last year when Cameron spoke on a Wednesday morning training. There's the Monday evening where there's a light bulb moment. Then there's the big ones, the Tholies, the Vegases, but you just never could have guessed which one was which. And you're totally gambling if you're picking and choosing events. And we just decided that we're going to go all in on them.
Yeah, totally. And events don't just have to do with our business. Actually, I have a buddy that plays for the Flames, and they have outside events happening all the time outside of games and practices, and they get fined if they don't attend those events.
Yeah.
So it's like this is not an abnormal thing. I think people think that it's like a WFG thing, that like the traditional industry, they have tons of events too that happen throughout the year, and for them I'm sure it's mandatory for them to attend. And here we literally just took it as gospel. And Cam and Corey said, never miss an event, you'll be financially successful. And they were right. And what I've found is big decisions or changes have never happened in my comfort zone. So I've never made a big decision in the comfort of my own home, and I got the TV on in the background and kids are like, decisions have never been made there. All of my changes and decisions have been made in uncomfortable surroundings, which has been, like Brendan said, on Wednesday mornings or Monday nights, or obviously the bigger events, the Tholies retreats that we've ran. And I feel like a lot of us say that we want our lives to change, but we're not willing to do what it takes for our lives to change. And just events are the number one recipe, in my opinion, for that to happen. It's speed.
Yeah, and let's maybe touch on when you would miss an event. There's a couple instances. It's a wedding of an immediate family member, or it's a death or a birth of a child. And outside that, there's just, and we'll talk about excuses, but there's really no other reason. Like we have sometimes we'll have agents that say, oh, I can't show up to the Monday morning kickoff meeting because I got a meeting. We got taught early on that you don't book meetings during events, and you don't. If a client came to me and said, I got to get $1 million, I'm going to meet you at Monday at 7 p.m., I'd turn it down, because that $1 million investment isn't worth breaking the integrity of our organization. Because the truth is, you only get to build your career once. And if I pick and choose my events, then my teammates start to pick and choose their events, and it starts to breed into the culture of our organization. But we can sit here in front of you and say, hey, we've never missed an event. And that in itself, think about the amount of money from us being able to say that I've never missed an event, that now that we have an organization of a couple hundred agents, because we say that breeds into that organization. But if we got on the call and we say, yeah, pick and choose the events, think about the amount of money that would cost us. If
it's millions of dollars when you think about it.
Long term, for sure.
Right, it's millions. And that's the number one reason, or you can even call it an excuse, as to why people don't attend, is they say they can't afford it. Right, and they treat events like it's an expense and it's a cost, and it's very much so the opposite. I mean, throughout our entire career, events for us have been the greatest investment we can ever make back into ourselves. Talking about reinvesting back in our business and in our people, but at the same time, we also have to reinvest back in ourselves. It's the greatest investment you can ever make. I mean, it's better than any stock. It's better than any real estate venture. is investing back in yourself. And just the whole adage of I can't afford it or I don't have the money it's just not true. One, it's a scarcity mindset. If that's how you feel about a few $100 investment or even $1,000 investment here and there, which those big ones don't happen often. But when they do, I mean, man, we have way bigger fish to fry. How are we expecting to go and build even a decent sized organization, even becoming a profitable SMD if we're scared about making a $200 or $500 or even $1,000 investment from time to time? It's just it's not going to happen. That means that we have a stronghold over money, which means that we're not going to receive in abundance. And so we can't expect to build anything big if we're not able to go and just release the stronghold that we have on a few $100s or a few $1,000s from time to time. So, one of the best books we've ever read around kind of scarcity with money is The Secret to the Millionaire Mind. And that's the number one reason or excuse that we get is I can't afford it. I don't have the money. And we've proved that myth wrong many times. And maybe, you can share the story around Vegas with those agents that,
for sure,
that gave us that.
Couple thoughts on that. We heard this from Ed Milet, so don't take this, against you as an individual. But if you can't afford to go to the event, then that's the exact reason why you need to go to the event. You can't afford not to. You're in a position where you need to earn more income and you need to find a solution. It obviously hasn't worked over the last little while, and you need that breakthrough idea. But before even thinking about the cost of the event, the first thing you need to ask yourself, and I always do this with agents, is I say, do you want to go to the event or not? Take the money off the table. Do you want to go to the event or not? If the answer is no, there's nothing we can do to help you out. It is what it is. And, we'll proceed accordingly. But if the answer is yes, we'll find a way. We'll find a way to make it happen. And we used an example. This was early on in the business. We had a guy on our team named Brendan, and we asked him that question. He said, do you want to go to Vegas or not? He said, yes. I said, okay, we're going to do a bottle fundraiser for you. And we went around the office, and I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. I'd rather you just go use your license or earn income. We were just using it to prove a point. And we've raised enough bottles to be able to get them in a position to come to Vegas. And there's been so many examples like that. Like we had a guy show up to, I don't know if you remember this, but in Banff, we used to do our convention in January, and the guy actually slept outside in a tent. Yeah. And it was like minus 15.
I know.
And so it's just that also extreme there. But if you want to go, you'll go. If you don't want to go, you won't go. It's not the money thing, because if you did make the decision that, I'm going, we'll find a way to do it. We'll close another policy. We'll plan accordingly. That's another comment too, though, is always have an event fund going for you, right? You should have a $50 pack, $100 pack into an account that this is for events. And I've done that for a long time, where I just know there's events that pop up and I need to have a reserve set aside for it so that financially we're in a position to go do that. But like Jeremy said, it's an investment. It's a tax write-off. It's an investment. I mean, these events are not to make money. These events are put on to allow you to go change your life. And you can't convince me that this event can't give you the tools and motivation and equip you in a position to go help one or two more families to pay for it in a year. There's just no way that's not possible. They're designed that way.
For sure. And another excuse we'll hear, and this is more so from leaders, is they'll say, well, I don't really need the event anymore. I'm good. I've got my mindset. I'm in a comfortable position, and hey, maybe you are good. Maybe you don't need the event to get to the next level because you're comfortable at $100,000 or 150 or 200. But what about your teammates? Because the second we make the decision to not attend the event, then that gives all of your teammates permission to not attend the event. And if they don't attend, you may be good, but if your teammate does not attend, chances are they're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Right? There's always exceptions to the rule, but do you even know an SMD or even someone making $250,000 a year that got there without attending events? I mean, I don't know of one. I've never personally heard of one. I'm sure there is one somewhere in the company, but those people are few and far between. And so if we don't lead from the front on this stuff, you guys, one, it's going to be very, very difficult to build a team. And two, if you have a team, it'll be very hard to retain because the event is literally the lifeblood of their career. So always keep that in mind from a leadership standpoint, is if I don't do something, how is that going to reflect on my teammates?
Yeah, and you're either growing or dying, right? So if you've decided that you've learned everything and you know everything at this point, then unfortunately you're on the trajectory in the opposite direction. And I remember when we were doing our morning kickoff meetings during COVID, Claudette was on every friggin' meeting, right? Do you remember that? Like Claudette and Rael were listening to these meetings. We're like, why are you listening to us speak during COVID at 9 a.m. or whatever it was that we did it? But they still show up to the events. They're still taking notes. And another objection people will give is that they can't get time off of work. That just goes back to the same thing. Do you want to go to the event or not? Because we can find a way. And again, that's also a good example. If we can't get a couple days off of work, is the exact reason as to why you need to go to this event. So that way you can take a couple days off of work. It's just, I couldn't fathom not being able to take 2 days off when we know 6 months in advance. And so you just need to plan accordingly and be prepared. And if they're hard, just not even giving that opportunity, then we got to look ourselves in the mirror on that for sure.
Yeah, totally. And then the last one would just be a value piece. I just don't see value in the event, and and that again, that reason or excuse can come from many different mindsets or sources, or maybe it's past experiences. But again, I just go back to, okay, so you don't see value in the event, but you want XYZ in the business. You want to become an SMD. You want to get to $250,000. You want to get to 500. And well, then great. Well, then go find me somebody in the company making $500,000 a year who skips out on events. You're just not going to find one. So again, it just goes back to the concept of you're gambling with your business future. If you're picking and choosing, not seeing value in events, trying to have kind of a lone wolf mentality in business. Again, it's not to say that you're not going to go and maybe make a decent living here if you already have some basic skill sets, but to go and build anything significant here is going to be virtually impossible without attending events with consistency and at scale. And again, not every event has hit home for us. Right? There's been some that we've walked out, and I got some nuggets here and there, but very few events we ever walk out with nothing. Right? There's always something that we can get out of it. Why? Because we walk in there with the intent that we're going to get something out of the event. And I think that's important too. I think a lot of people miss that part. They just attend the event with a blank slate, no real intent on what they want to get out of it or outcome. And of course you walk out of there with not really knowing, hey, was that valuable? But if you walk out there with some specific intention and outcome that you want to get out of it, you work the event. Every event you will walk out of there with something. And for us, it's always been, who can we go talk to? Who can we go and associate with to go ask some questions, rub shoulders with, so we can walk out of there with some value. And we never allow an event to go by without getting something out of it, especially when it's been an investment of our time and certainly our money.
Yeah, and obviously the big events, but also the small events. Your weekly trainings are the same thing of seeking value out of it. But you're building a habit either way. You're either building the habit that you're somebody that shows up to trainings. But I know for me at the gym, if I miss one day at the gym, then it makes it a little bit easier to miss the second
100%.
one. And then a little bit, and we have a pulse on our agents that as soon as they miss the first Monday evening, you can just see the trajectory that the next thing you know, they miss a Wednesday, and then they miss a Saturday, and then they stop showing up to trainings, and it is just a matter of time before they're done. It's just, we've never seen somebody stick around other than somebody that's super part-time and they just kind of clean up business here or there, but not at a high level that shows up consistently. So we were just scared of that, I think. I don't know if that wasn't driven fearfully in by the leadership. We were just kind of grew up in the business that way. Yeah,
they never put a gun to our heads on you have to go. I
think our sports did that.
Yeah, probably. Because when we played sports, it was you don't show up, it's one strike. You don't show up again, you're off the team. That was how serious it was if you missed.
I got a quick comment on that. So I played for Team Canada. We used the hotel to do our alarm wake up, and we didn't get a phone call. And so we missed the start of the game, not the start of the game, the warm-up. And I remember showing up, Team Canada were playing the Blue Jays at the time, and I was supposed to be hitting fourth in the lineup, and Brendan Hendricks was listed there, and then there's just a red marker crossed across my name because I missed and the coach came by and said, hey, one time you get a pass, second time you're off the team. So that just totally embedded in us. And that wasn't even our fault, even though it was. But so anyways, events are just... Critical across the
You
board.
know, and hey, we don't want to do this to go and shame people that have missed events in the past and stuff's happened. But the reason why we're doing this is you can start your streak today, right? Maybe you've been inconsistent on Mondays or Wednesdays or Saturdays or certainly the bigger events. Well, you can start today. Go and make that a habit and a staple for your current team and your future team to have the mindset and the standard of we never miss events. Right? And you go do that. I promise you things will start to change. I don't know if you're going to become a 7-figure earner here one day or a giant in the industry, but my goodness, certainly you go and have that habit and standard for 5 consecutive years. You're making a 6-figure income here. You're probably an SMD here. You've got some decent stuff going on. You can quit your job, come here full time. We just haven't seen any agents that have built this with consistency. And we have so many examples of that. You know, I mean, Dean Pryor is one that always comes to mind because he's probably a guy that, maybe shouldn't have made it based off his, past experiences and mindset. And he had a lot of stuff to work through. And one thing he's never missed is an event. That guy had a surgery on his knee, I believe. He was on crutches, found his way to Vegas, right? And it's just taking all excuses away. And he'll be one of the next $250,000 earners in the organization. There's so many other examples. I don't want to start naming people. He's always the first one that comes to mind. But you can start today. So what? You've been inconsistent in the past. Start today, make it a habit, make it a standard, and things will start to change.
Yeah, and shifting gears, kind of the leadership perspective, you just can't be afraid to inconvenience people for their own good. We can't sugarcoat it. We need to be honest with what it takes for them to win. And you're probably the same. This is not a conversation I love having when I'm like trying to convince somebody to go to an event.
No.
I don't enjoy doing it, but I know I have to. I know it's part of the recipe, and in order for them to succeed, there's oftentimes a big event coming up, and I'm looking at an agent. I'm thinking to myself, this is either them surviving or quitting. That's how I view events for certain agents at certain times in their career. You can kind of just feel it that way. But I remember when we were going up in the business, we learned the idea of butts in seats. So your income is directly correlated to how many people you have showing up to events, big and small. So the Monday evening training. That's kind of where it started for us. We tracked how many people were showing up to training, and our job was to grow that because you're either growing or dying. And then it graduated from that to how many people are showing up to Monday full-timers, and then it graduated to summits and Vegases, and that's how we've really tracked the growth of our business. So much so that every single Sunday, and this was like growing up in the business and as new SMDs, we would call our entire roster on Sunday reminding them about training. People on here, that Michelle and Shane, you guys would remember that, where every Sunday they get a call from us, say, hey, just a reminder, we got training, we're set to go. And so just making sure you're, again, inconvenience people for their own good, driving the trainings, driving the events. And then, sorry, I'm going on a rendition on this, but be willing to have the hard conversations. So driving an event is not a WhatsApp message to the group. Driving an event is not a text message. It's, especially with these big ones, sitting down face to face and having that bold conversation. And here's how it goes. It says, hey, do you want to go to the event or not? Yes. Okay, let's find a way to get you there. And being willing to handle their objections and work through it with them. We've had to do that with some of the leaders in our organization, and I'm so glad that we did.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, early on when we had a smaller team, we would also inconvenience ourselves to get people to the event, right? I mean, it was driving around the city, picking people up, dropping them off after.
Every week,
we were helping with the bottle drive. We were also raising bottles for our agents to help them get to the event. Like we were just as much involved in helping our agents get there as obviously they were, because again, this is what we had. And we were told if they don't attend the event, they're not going to make it. And we only had 5 or 6 licenses at the time. So like, oh my goodness, if I lose 2 guys, now I'm at 4, and so it was just ingrained in us that the amount of people we had showing up per week at our weekly meeting, plus the amount of meetings that we ran per week, add those numbers together, that equals your business. And every week you have to beat that number, and that tells you that you're growing. If you're not, you're dying. And it was just ingrained in us early on that our agents had to attend. Otherwise, they weren't going to make it. And to be quite frank, like Brendan said, other than the very part-time agent where they've kind of like decided what their future is going to be here, they're going to chip away, clean up business, build their book of assets over time. And outside of those agents, anybody that says they want to build something decent here if they don't attend events, they're probably not going to make it. And that's just the honest truth.
And we used to never let anybody slip through the cracks. We were just, and maybe it's just the size, it was the culture we had at the time, but everybody had that conversation, and everybody we drove. And like Jeremy said, I don't know how many times I've personally, let's say, invested into them being there. And what I mean by that is they say, hey, I can't afford it right now. I'll cover the cost of your ticket and you pay me back on the backside. Mm-hmm. Or there's been times where I've helped out and chipped in, and there's no better investment of my time and my energy to make sure they get in that environment so they can go flourish and take off.
Yeah, 100%. And then, then it comes down to the importance of their spouse being there. And, we can touch on that quick. That was instrumental for me. And, everybody thinks that Sarah was like extremely supportive from day one. She was always supportive of me, and I'm very grateful of that. But she had questions about the business too early on. She didn't understand. Her dad worked on Wall Street, and I'm moving back from the U.S. to Canada to start this, this insurance thing, and she just had her own, her own kind of mental understanding of what that is. And she had talked to a few people, and again, she had her questions and her concerns about what I was doing. But when we qualified for that first trip to Iceland, everything changed. Everything changed. That was her first exposure to the people that we were working with, and the culture and the environment and what we were building, and what we were doing this for. And everything changed. And she started coming into the office and helped out with some paperwork and understood the business and learned approach and contact. And obviously roles evolved over time. But by me getting her involved early and often, again, that was a game changer for me and the family that we have today. And you'd be very similar when it comes to Carly.
Yeah, 100%. There was lots of inconvenient times with kids and with life and with income and throughout the career, and we just found a way to make it work. And it's one of those examples of, man, I wish I would have, or I'm so glad I did. And we've never missed an event. We'll continue that, and we just hope that you get on board with that same mindset and philosophy for your team, and just double down. I love what Jeremy said. You can start that decision today. Maybe you've been wishy-washy on it, but today, from here on out, you can say, hey, as of April, whatever it is, 10th. That I'm deciding I'm going to show up to every event. I'm going to be at the office live for training. I'm going to be at every Wednesday, every Monday kickoff, every Saturday, and then extrapolate that for a 5-year window, and your life will change. And we poked our head up after 5 years, and what they told us was exactly true. But every day you miss, it's another chink in the armor of deteriorating your rate of return.
Or every big event you miss,
even worse.
It's a big hit to the armor. It's not a small one. The big events, it's a very big hit.
Yeah. So appreciate all you guys. Again, we only bring this to you because we care about the organization. We want to see your lives change. Like it's happening for so many, right? It's so cool to see the people that have been showing up consistently. Now it's starting to turn into this wave of like everybody's becoming a 100K earner, and the next thing they'll be $250,000 earners. And
it's the number one domino, you guys, that we can trust and have faith that if you work this with consistency, a lot of other things are going to fall into place, right? That is one thing that you can go and control, where multiple things will start to fall into place if you commit to attending everything with consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be launching again. Right now Vegas is launched. So maybe make the decision on this call that, hey, we're going to make this thing happen. And then our showcase, which is one of our biggest events of the year, if not the biggest event within our organization. That's going to be launched in May. So make sure you're prepared to register, your teammates are prepared, and we're going to double down this year and make sure it's world-class. But make sure you share this with your teammates, and we appreciate you guys tuning in as always.